This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, welcome to this Open Security Summit session in September 2024. And we have Timo, long-time collaborator and contributor to the Open Security Summit, giving another session on DSOMM, which is basically the OWASP DevSecOps maturity model. And we're going to look at a hands-on workshop on how to actually use it to define and deliver your own program. Over to you, Timo, and just saying that this is actually, just checking, this is your 1, 2, 3, 4, is your 5th presentation on DSOMM. So lots of great materials here already. And I'm sure there's going to be another one. Welcome, Timo.
Thank you for the nice introduction. I first have prepared a slideshow for you, and afterwards I will give you some hands-on, and maybe some of you can afterwards become also a host here and present your results. But therefore, you first need to get some knowledge so that you can utilize that. All right. So before we start, we need a kind of a solid foundation before we start with an assessment about our DevSecOps maturity. Therefore, I recommend that you get to know the product applications in your organization, and maybe you have also a team responsible for it, a point of contact, often that is a risk owner or product owner. Maybe you know already protection requirements or regulatory requirements for this, and you should know your security tooling and the processes. As I said, you need to know the applications in your organization. As big as the organization gets, as harder it will be to know all applications in that organization, from my experience. Therefore, you need an inventory of production components that you can see here is on level 1. And in case you want to do it better, you can take a look at level 2. And in level 2, you see that you have already an inventory of production artifacts. So the difference here is that the inventory of production components is just the application name, for example, in an Excel list of the CISO of that organization. While production artifacts for me already means that I know which microservices this application is composed of. And on level 3, you see inventory of production dependencies. So here you latest need to automate a bit and use a tool like OWASP Dependency Track, for example, where you track which applications are currently in production, and then you can upload an SBOM, or you generate first an SBOM and then you upload it to a dependency track, for example, and you see also the dependencies which are used in the applications in production. Yeah, this is a basic understanding of a maturity model. Here you see 3 out of the 5 levels from DSOMM. You see only the dimension build and deployment, and from that only the sub-dimension deployment. And I just gave you the inventory related activities here. Normally we have much more dimensions in DSOMM.
Timo, can I just a quick comment?
Sure,
on this,
always.
What I also find is that, especially on big organizations, is don't treat your entire organization as one unit. So I kind of, when I deployed some of the maturity models in the past, I kind of tried to do it as almost a graph where you need to follow the org chart and basically map this to that, especially because in large organizations, you're going to have not just a mix of maturity, but also a mix of very different, I would say, states of application, where you go from parts of the organization that have legacy apps to parts of the organization that are literally on the latest startup model, and some of them, everything in the middle. So this is important to also connect to it, and also connect to the criticality of the business assets that you have. So, for example, a level 1 understanding and a complete new development that doesn't touch customer data, is not mission critical, might be acceptable. Like in level 1, in a mission critical piece of the application that is used by a large of the company, that, if we don't even have, let's say modern development practices, is way more problematic, because it means that something happens there, you really have a massive problem. So I found that if you follow the corporate structure, gets political, you control it from a political point of view, and you can start to basically even provide good metrics for the business, and then gives them a good roadmap that is then aligning context to the business.
Yeah, that is a great comment. Actually, I removed that slides where I had such examples, but as you're mentioning it, let us take a look at the examples I experienced to give it a bit more ground. SVN.
What was that law that says that the software development structure matches the organizational structure? Right? There's a law that says that, right? Depending on your org chart, your software models tend to be structured. Your microservice architecture, right, tends to follow your corporate structure too.
Yeah, I have a lot to say for this. Let me start with this slide. We are different. Afterwards, you see here already that is something I also recommend. I don't always get it, but it would be, as you said, it's very helpful to get it.
Yeah.
Every team feels different, so that's what I experienced. And sometimes, as you said, it's correct, and sometimes I feel it's yeah, I don't agree. So I have 3 examples here. One is we cannot open pull requests, we use SVN. Another one is we are stuck with the 32-bit application and cannot patch. And another one is we write code for mainframe and OWASP is not possible. Yeah, what do you say about it?
No, but this is exactly my point. My point is that you have to take into account, right, this environment, and also where it runs and which part of the org chart and which part of the business structure it fits. Because we want to raise the level, but we also want to make sure that is realistic. Because you don't want to see of red, right? You don't want to say, oh, everybody's doesn't do this, because there could be mitigating controls, right? But it's important. For example, like on the mainframe stuff, or and I experienced that quite a lot too, right? It's important to say, okay, but then we have other mitigating controls, right? We might not have this, but then, for example, the rate of change is not very high. So you could say it's okay to have level 1 there, for example, right? And even the example I was saying, sometimes it's the reverse. Sometimes it's okay to have similar legacy apps to have a low level of maturity, because it's very hard, if not borderline impossible, to do it. But you want to make sure that all the new stuff and the stuff that eventually going to replace the legacy is actually at a very good level.
Yeah. For this 32-bit application, I recommend it to isolate it, so that the isolation layer you can patch, that you have strong input validation, because this is an application from an insurance where they only get numbers in and numbers out.
Yeah.
So that was very easy. And the SVN, I told them, just update to Git, so you can be compliant. But I also experienced that often teams are using the same things, the same infrastructure, so you don't need to audit that again. To that we will come in a second. That will also build on top on what you said. Let me. Sorry.
I was gonna say, what I would love to have? I would love if it was mandated that companies, especially companies that sell software, publish their maturity model, their level. Because one of the things that sometimes is very frustrating when you're dealing with third-party software and other vendors is when their piece of software is ridiculously put together, but you don't have sometimes the hard evidence, right, to show it. Where you can totally see with the maturity level of let's say the DevSecOps maturity model, you can really compare the difference between a massive legacy stack that just got put a new UI to a modern development application that has that. Because sometimes you have a lot of parts of the business that are making decisions without good data points. And sometimes even development and IT and technology and security is not that involved. And this would be a great benchmark, right? To allow the business owners making decisions about software they buy to know the difference, right? Between buying a massive freaking chewing gum of legacy that has all of those things, right? Because, you know, the examples you had there, you know, the worst part is when you see them in modern third-party applications, right? Financial, human resources, whatever, right? You know, even security products, right? There's security products that I kid you not run tech like that, but they have a modern UI, right? So they feel modern.
Yeah.
So it would be great to publish it. You know, it'd be great to start to have a way to pragmatically start saying that software is ridiculously legacy, right?
Yeah, actually, that's what I did in a company where we shipped software to insurances and financial institutions. We provided them the maturity, the DevSecOps maturity model as an application, so they could access it and see what is in place and what not.
Yeah.
And they also the CISO had a mapping. I mean, DSOMM has a mapping to the ISO, so the ISO 2701. So they got that also automatically.
I know, but it's ridiculously powerful, right? Because suddenly you have data, right? And it's not just whichever has the best marketing or whichever sells the best or has the best price that should actually win the contract.
Yeah.
So yeah, get this in procurement.
Very good.
Cool,
Yeah, well, we already talked about an organization chart that will help a lot to understand the organization. Also, it helps to get some numbers, how many developers or security people or operations people are working in different departments, and in what relations are they, and what are the responsibilities. It's also interesting to get to know the technology stack. As big as the organization, as more stacks you might face. Also important is the security tooling, which is in place already, and the processes and the policies. And I also like to get pen test reports and the open findings to see what are big problems in the past. So maybe we need some training in specific areas or specific tooling to cover that. Yeah.
Well, and also the pen test is also a great way, right, to confirm reality, isn't it? Because sometimes when you get people just answering the questions, they go like, almost like, this is what I think is happening. And then you have a pen test going, well, it's not because of that finding. So it's also really cool to give you hard evidence on what's happening under the hood.
Yeah. Yeah, now we come to a concept which we could call inheritance or includes. So as Dennis said, we might have different departments responsible for different things in an organization. So you might be able to see that you have a platform team which is providing a version control system platform. Or is providing a production environment, a specific one. For example, Docker container platform and Kubernetes platform, and as I said, GitHub. And what I saw in the past is that the teams, the product teams, will use one of these environments. So, for example, more in an organization, hopefully you have defined everyone uses GitHub or Bitbucket or one of the other nice platforms for version control. And that you can then define once what are the policies in there which everyone will automatically get. And you don't need to ask these things to the teams again, because you asked it to the provider of that tool what is enforced, and then you don't need to ask these things to the product teams. Sometimes it's a bit tricky. For example, when it comes to secret management, because in Kubernetes you might use a specific way to deploy secrets, but the team could put secrets also still directly in code. In that case, sometimes you should confirm, but in general, I love to use such includes where I define once a general platform for an organization, and then I don't need to ask these questions to the teams again. And in addition, you need to get in general input from the developers and operations teams. When you have all that, then you can start with road mapping. So I know where I am right now and where I want to be in the future. In the past, I thought I can make a plan for the next 3 years. That didn't work out because one activity sometimes takes half a year to implement. So I would say you can have a vision. You can have a vision of how many different security toolings you will have to define if you need a vulnerability management system or not. That is helpful, but I wouldn't plan more than a year. As I said, mostly I plan the next three months, or if I want to have a long outlook, the next half a year, the next full year. That is the most I can do. To define the plan or your roadmap, you could use a maturity model. That is what we will do today, or you could use scorecards. But we will say today take a deeper look at the maturity models. I think in the next Open Security Summit also present the other presentation here. Key steps to achieving an application security program. Some things you saw already today, but there you get a bigger picture. But today we will, as I said, focus on the maturity model so that we might be able to have a small hands-on task for you also. This is how you design it. You say you define how many levels do you want to have. Likely you will have 3. Doesn't make sense to have only 1 or 2. Mostly I see 3 levels in organizations. And then you have the different dimensions you want to cover. In DSOMM, you also have sub-dimensions. When you create an activity, you should take into account the dimension, where do you want to put it. What you should strictly try to not do is having redundancy. So you don't want to have same activity in 2 different dimensions. That doesn't make sense. And you need to take into account on which level you want to put it. DSOMM itself gives you a lot of ideas where you can put an activity and what activities are possible. But it's only 80%, I would say, around 80% of what you need, because you need to check if you have dependencies to other activities. You need to take into account the existing tooling. So existing tooling, which is used by most teams, that you want to put on level 1. And you need to check the outcome for security and the ease of implementation. I rated this in a very generic way in DSOMM, but it often depends on the organization how easy or hard an implementation is. Then we come to the roadmap definition. Who does it? I recommend that the security team is defining it and the product teams are only implementing it. Otherwise, the product, in case you say product teams, I have here 20 activities. Tell me in which order you want to do it. That will lead to a lot of questions. They will need to understand all these 20 activities, or maybe even more. When they go in a maturity model, then they just need to understand what they have to reach and not everything. So that will save a lot of explanation time. All right. Now I would like to jump into the DevSecOps maturity model. I have deployed a local version, which we can see here. So this is the full DevSecOps maturity model, which has far too many activities. So when we now want to do an assessment or define what teams should do, we need to reduce that. And the first thing I recommend is to cut down, to remove everything on level 4 and 5. Because that is more nice to have in case hey, my teams have blue-green deployments. Maybe you want to leave it. But then you need to move it maybe to level 3. As I said, you need to define how many levels you want to have. But first, you need to understand how many activities do you have, because it doesn't make sense to have a lot of these white spaces where nothing exists. So should be a balance you would like to reach. Okay. So now the question is, how can we do that? The DevSecOps maturity model actually consists of YAML files. I have presented in the past already here how you can automate some activities so that you automatically get the current state right from today. But today we'll focus on how to document the requirements you have, and we assume that you use YAMLs in a manual way, but but you could try to automate it as we have seen in the past summits. This is the application repository, and the DevSecOps maturity model also has the data repository. In here, you find the YAML files. In the default folder structured are based on the dimension, and when you click on one, you see that in here are the subdimensions. Yeah, maybe we can take a look at the first one here. So in here you see that there's, for example, building and testing of artifacts in virtual environments. As we discussed in one of the past Open Security Summit sessions, we need a UUID, which you find here, so that in case the name changes, you can reference the ID. That is very important also for the future of this presentation, that you understand that you have a UUID, and this maps to an activity. In the activity itself, we have some more attributes, and nice to know here is that these attributes are getting kind of inherited or included in case you reference an activity. What you can do is use the custom repository here as a baseline. So what we want to do now is we want to prepare some activities which teams have to implement, and this gives a very nice guideline. So in here you find the custom repository in data in the custom repository, and I have split this into definition and implementation. So in the definition, we see here that I only reference first the dimension, the subdimension, and then the activity name itself. You could also here, as an alternative, use UUID, double point, and then the ID. Then it automatically gets detected that this is the UUID, and that will be included. Here you see that this activity is just included as it is, while here in application tests for unit tests for important components, you see this has moved to level 1. That means maybe we have something like the open policy agent, and you have authorization tests for it, and therefore you say, hey, that are the important tests I would like to have. Most teams have it already, therefore I would like to push it to level 1. For the design of a maturity model, it's, from my point of view, it's very important that teams are not getting frustrated. So on level at level 1, you should define what is there already, so that level 1 is green already, and then you slowly push in activities first to level 3, then some activities are going down to level 2, and some to level 1. Slowly, that level 1 is getting more and more activities, and teams need to do something to keep up to be compliant with level 1. Yeah, this is just the definition. So I like to split it in definition YAML, where I don't have the information which team have reached this implementation, and then we have here the implementation where we see, okay, there's application A, And we have here something called team evidence. And team evidence means that the team, in this case, the team name is A, has added here a screenshot where they show we are using dependency check, and therefore we have implemented this. Or for the unit test for important components, you can see that team A refers here to sample implementation of the unit tests for OPA. In addition, you can see here that we have so-called YAML references, and this is what we talked about beforehand. So when you have an application which is running in a specific environment or a platform, or uses specific components which are used a lot by different teams, you can see here that you can include platform that, and it will add the implementation status of all activities in that YAML to the application A. So let's take a look here. What is defined in platform Z? Platform Z, you see, okay, in Kubernetes, for example, we have blue-green deployments, and there is an evidence here placed. And in the defined deployment process, you also see that there is an evidence provided. You do not need to work with evidence. You could instead have teams implemented here, but then and then it will show green in the model, but it will not give information why it is implemented. And when we come to the definition here, maybe we do that together. No, I'm not logged in here. Let me switch to logged in. What is, from my point of view, important also is the assessment attribute. Everything in here can be, not everything, a lot of fields can be added as Markdown. What you can add here is the assessment attribute, and then you can define what would you like to see. 1 second, this needs to be a sub attribute. What do you want to see as security people to show to have this to give the activity the status implemented? So maybe you can say here, please provide a screenshot of the treatment implementation. So here we don't want to see numbers. In the first place, we just want to see that there is a mechanism for simple false positive treatment. In the long run, you might want to have a vulnerability management system, but in this organization, this is currently not possible. That could be a reason. Then we have here software composition analysis for server-side components, and maybe you say here that please, provide a screenshot of the Jenkins file with the test included. I personally like numbers. So you could also say as an alternative, mean time to response must be lower than 7 days for severity high and critical. So this would make it so you would quantify what teams need to reach in order to have this activity green. All right. Now I would like to show you how you can do it. We have the DevSecOps Maturity Model custom repository. I have checked it out already. In here, you'll find a README, how you can use it, but I will give you a demonstration, so that will make it a bit easier for you. You could utilize what you find in here, as I said, in the data custom repository. As an alternative, you could generate the activities by yourself based on the current activity information with the command you find in the documentation, and that is this one here. You can see it's a Docker container which I'm running. I'm giving the Docker container the data temp folder. I have created this folder beforehand. I'm sorry, I need to go one step back. We first need to fill this folder. I'm sorry for that. With this command you find in here, you create the folder data temp all activities. So for me, it's already there. And then with this command here, you need to have the DevSecOps Maturity Model -data repository at the same level as your current folder. And then it takes all the YAML files and picks the activities from there with this simple bash command and puts it into data temp all activities. And here it's called definition hyphen, and then it's the file name from the find command here. So we do that. Now you find in the folder data temp all activities, all the different dimensions, all the different subdimensions, and in there all the activities. This could be a baseline for you. And now you need to kind of sort it. What are things you want to put on a platform level, and what are things you want to ask every team? So we can do this together for the development and source control. Let's say we do it for the DevSecOps maturity model itself. So I copy this and we go to data custom implementations, and this is GitHub YAML. What we cannot leave here is the first one. Why can't we leave this one? Local development, development linting, and style checks performed. You cannot leave it here because I feel this is custom for every team and for every repository. So this is not something we can define that every repository, for example, in this organization we saw just here, DevSecOps maturity model, that they will have that. So this is something we need to ask every application team again. Then we have here require a PR before merging, and this is something which is enabled. So you cannot, except you're an administrator, merge directly. So therefore we can have teams evidence. Now describe policy is enabled, and we also have to be honest. Administrators can overrule this. Then we have dismiss stale PR approvals. I am very honest, before this session, it wasn't enabled, but I checked the setting. Now it is enabled, so we can be happily say policy is enabled. Administrators in this case cannot overrule it. Then versioning, obviously. Oh, 1 second. I did a mistake here. We have to say it's team A. It's not an array, it's an object. And here it's also, or let's do it for the default team. Versioning is also there, as we discussed. Then we have the require status checks to pass. This is also enabled. And we have block force pushes. I think this is not enabled. That we can check together. Settings. Branch protection. I'm in the wrong repository. We need to go to the correct repository. So we have the DevSecOps material model here, settings, branches. And we wanted to see block force pushes. And here you see they are allowed, so we cannot provide evidence here. We would love to have it, but it is not there. Therefore, we remove it. So now we can save this. Get README. And in the README here, you see that there is a command to generate the YAML now. So you have this nice structure in which you can work, where you have the definitions and the implementations. In the definition, you can override. I would override the level, while in the implementations, I would mark the team evidence, which team has implemented what, and now they need to be merged together. Also, includes, in case you defined it, need to be performed, and therefore we can run this command here to get it running. I created a more advanced demonstration beforehand that we won't reach today, but we can do this. So what I also sometimes it's not working when I put it to temp generated, I experienced. Therefore, let us just use the generated folder in the current folder. And then we generate it, and there is a mistake here. Custom pv --v. Why is there a problem? This happens in live demonstration, right? There is nothing extra. Maybe I did a mistake. Data custom get status. Not that I changed something. No, there is nothing changed here. So it must. Let us see if I move this here to temp, if it works then. No. Do you see? I can't see the error.
Well, it
Okay, I
should
can't. Sorry.
be an array, right? Should being that guy there, the functions, which is the value that should be, see dimensions? Feels like that dimensions there on your YAML. Can you go back to your YAML? Do you have that field there?
I mean the include, I think, is as
Yeah,
we
the one you
saw in
just changed.
application A. So for the demonstration, we could just remove it. Maybe then it works. Yeah. Okay. So now
Yeah,
it
so it looked
works.
like that needed to be defined as an array. It kind of wasn't, so.
Yeah. So I will check this afterwards and make the demonstration work. I'm not sure why it didn't. Now we move back the. It was called GitHub. Data custom implementations, and we run it again. Pull it. This one I know that is because there is a difference in the Docker container and the data we used. So it says dismiss the PR approvals. This is actually, let's call it preview. This is not in the current YAML. Therefore, what did I do beforehand? Yeah, I added this as a volume. This one is it? Because there is a difference otherwise between what the container knows and what we have in our defined YAMLs. Now I did it wrong. I pasted it and there is here too much. I pasted too much, and now it worked, and we have here generated YAML, and let's take a look inside. There is too much inside. We haven't defined so much. Let me remove this. Generated. I think we will not come to the workshop part where you as a participant will do it, because we talked a bit too much in the start, and now we have some small problems. So I think we will have another session where we will get into practice.
And
to
Timo,
have
I need to
more
jump into the other
things.
session. I'm gonna make you a host, and then you just stop the recording, but you can continue as much as you want, right? But I don't know if you want that.
Can participant ask questions?
Yeah, they
But
can put on a chat, yeah, and you should just
all right.
questions.
Okay.
Cool. So I'll make you a host, and then I'll jump into the other session.
Okay. Thank you.
You just, and then at the end, just stop recording, and you can end the session.
All right. Thank you.
All right. There you are.
So now it's left. So I would say we reset everything here to have a good start. We still have the implementation GitHub file here. And in the generated folder, we have nothing. That's correct. So let us run the Docker command. Again, you see in the Docker command, we have data custom as input. We have here the extension we just added, so that the YAMLs from the local file system are used as a base and not the one in the image. And you see here that we want the outcome, so the combined generated.yaml in the folder generated from our current folder. Beforehand, we just saw that there is a problem in the data, which is not there again because I used reset. oops, application A. Also, we can remove the reference here. Now we can run it again. We can take a look at generated. Still, everything is in here. That I cannot solve now because we are a bit under pressure. I will update the documentation for this, but this is how you actually do it, and then you can run with the generated YAML, which we have here. You can just start the container. That is what I did here. Docker run with the generated as input. And then you see it. So I will skip the part in which the YAML file is generated because I can't create that right now. But so that you can see that it will work in the end, we will jump to how it will look here. So you see now, actually there it worked, right? I was just confused that there's so much inside, but that is because we have the this inheritance mechanism where we get all the attributes. So actually it worked. I'm very sorry for the confusion. Here you see now what we have defined. So you see the development and source control. This is what we all just added together, where you have the versioning, require PR before merging, dismiss stale PRs. This is the one, as I said, this is currently not in the YAML generation Docker container image, but it will soon be in there and require a status check. And when we now go to implementation levels, what you need to do, unfortunately, is always to zoom out a bit. And actually, we should have it green here. Let us see when we go and zoom in again on versioning. So there is still an error with the default theme because this should be true, right? We said, hey, this is implemented. So there is a demo. God, it's not nice to me today. But now that we know that the data generation worked, we can go back to the implementations and GitHub YAML. So what we have here is team evidence and default. Let us check if the format I used is correct. Teams evidence. Let us see if I wrote it correctly. Teams evidence. I think it looks correct, but teams evidence feels correct. Is there another error here? When we take a look in here, teams evidence. A double point. This is exactly what we did. Let us see if we can see the evidence. So this is implementation. That means this should be filled out, but we also have the evidence here. Oh, but there is no evidence. So the problem is that it doesn't detect the evidence. Let us see if it finds the evidence for security unit tests for important components. Security unit tests for important components, and it's not here. No, that I cannot solve now. I will redo it. I'm pretty sure when I, after this presentation, take a look at it, I will directly see the problem. It's always a bit nasty with this generation. I often fall in that. I prepared it, but looks like not enough. Are there questions from you? No questions in the chat. I think I covered everything. Why the team evidence is not working right now might be because the command here is not correct. I will check that afterwards. And no, one second. We can take a look at the README here, and I know what I think we did it like this. Evidence custom. There is no magic in here. We also saw that the inheritance is working. Might be a new bug. I will check that out in case it's a bug or something. I will update the Open Security Summit page with how to do this correctly, and I will put it in this README so that it will be more easy for you. Then we come to the conclusion, which we have here, the summary. So teams want fast feedback, and you want to present your plan in a good way. The DSOMM gives you a good way because you have, as you have seen, these the inheritance in the activities here, so that you see, hey, this is the risk when you not do it. You have a measure here. It all comes automatically when you use the application. Not in the demo I presented now, but in general it should come automatically. You can see here the evidence. Right now not, but in general you could see it. You can, as a team, see what is the assessment criteria to have this as implemented. I feel that's very helpful. I recommend to use the application, even though we saw now that it's not so easy with this generation part. But that is, I'm pretty sure that I did somewhere a folder mistake. Yeah, then have a nice day. Hope you took something from this workshop. Bye.